wondered why most diets fail, you try cutting calories, exercising harder, avoiding your favorite foods. Yet somehow the weight creeps back. It's frustrating, isn't it? But what if the problem isn't you or your willpower, but the very way we've been told to lose weight? Fasting flips the script. At its core, fasting simply means not eating for a period of time. That's it. No complicated rules, no endless calorie counting. And it's something your body already does every single day. When you sleep at night, you're fasting. That's why the first meal is called break fast. Your body is designed for periods of eating and not eating. That's why you don't wither away in your sleep. You simply tap into your stored energy. Think of it like your refrigerator and freezer at home. The fridge is your short-term energy, the food you just ate. The freezer is your long-term storage, your body fat. And most of us are constantly raiding the fridge, never giving our body a chance to open the freezer. Fasting is simply allowing your body to switch over and use what's already there. And this isn't some modern health fad. Fasting has been practiced for thousands of years across every culture and religion, from Ramadan to Lent to Yom Kippur. If it were dangerous, humanity would never have survived. Instead, it's one of the most natural, time-tested practices we have. This guide is built for beginners. I'll show you exactly how fasting works in the body, the benefits you can expect, the common pitfalls that derail people, and practical strategies to make it part of your lifestyle. By the end, you'll understand why fasting isn't about deprivation, but about unlocking the body's natural rhythm of feeding and healing. So let's strip this idea right down to its basics. Fasting is simply the absence of eating. That's it. People often think it's some extreme, dangerous practice, but really it just means you're not putting food in your mouth for a period of time. Every single day, your body naturally shifts between two states, the feeding state and the fasting state. When you eat, your body takes in energy. Some of that energy is used right away, and the rest is stored for later. It's like filling up your refrigerator with groceries. You'll use some for tonight's dinner, and the extras get tucked away for another day. But your body has two storage compartments, the fridge short term in the form of glycogen in your liver, and the freezer long term in the form of body fat. Now here's the key point: your body fat is not just sitting there for decoration, it's stored food energy. That's its entire purpose. The problem is that in our modern world, we spend almost all of our time in the feeding state. We eat breakfast, then a mid-morning snack, lunch, an afternoon snack, dinner, and then something sweet while watching TV. That's 6 or 7 eating occasions a day. We never stop opening the fridge, so our body never gets a chance to dip into the freezer. Fasting simply extends the time between meals long enough for your body to make the switch. When insulin levels fall, your body opens up its long-term storage and starts burning fat for fuel. This isn't a trick or a gimmick. It's the natural rhythm your body was designed for. If fasting were dangerous, humans would never have survived. After all, our ancestors didn't have 24/7 access to drive, thrust, refrigerators, or vending machines. They went through cycles of eating and not eating. In fact, fasting is not new at all. It has been practiced for thousands of years, woven into religious and cultural traditions worldwide. Even just 50 or 60 years ago, eating patterns looked very different. In the 1960s and 70s, most people ate 3 meals a day with little or no snacking in between. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that was it. Kids didn't carry granola bars to school, and adults weren't constantly sipping on Lats or munching on energy bars. There were long stretches between meals, and obesity rates were far lower than they are today. Compare that to modern habits. We snack in the car, at our desks, late at night, and even in bed. We've been told never to let ourselves get hungry, as if hunger is some sort of emergency. But constant eating keeps insulin levels elevated, and that traps our body in storage mode. Imagine you've got a freezer full of perfectly good food, but you never let the fridge run low enough to bother opening it. That's exactly what happens when you never allow your body a fasting window. You never tap into your body fat. And here's another myth to clear up. Fasting is not the same as starvation. Starvation is involuntary when you don't have access to food. Fasting is deliberate. You have food available, but you choose not to eat for a period of time. The difference is choice and control. During fasting, your body doesn't panic. It calmly shifts gears and uses the energy it already stored for exactly this purpose. When people hear fasting, they often picture weakness, fatigue, or even danger. But the reality is quite the opposite. Once your body adapts, fasting often leads to greater clarity, energy, and stable moods. Why? Because instead of running on the quick highs and crashes of constant snacking, you're fueling yourself with steady, reliable energy from your body fat. So why does fasting matter for weight loss? Because it's the most natural way to access the energy you've already stored. You don't have to buy fancy shakes, expensive supplements, or follow bizarre eating rules. You simply give your body a chance to do what it was designed to do, burn fat when you're not eating. In a world where we've normalized constant snacking and late night eating, fasting is simply a return to balance. It's not deprivation, it's freedom. When most people first hear the word fasting, they imagine something extreme, days without food, feeling miserable and deprived. But that's not where you start. The safest and most effective way to begin is gradually by simply stretching the time between your meals. Think of it like building endurance at the gym. You wouldn't run a marathon on your first day. You'd start with a short jog, build consistency, and then push further as your body adapts. Fasting works the same way. The easiest entry point is a 12-hour fast. That sounds intimidating until you realize you've probably done it many times without noticing. If you finish dinner at 7 p.m. and don't eat again until 7 a.m., you've already fasted for 12 hours. Most of that time you were asleep. From here, you can nudge the window a little longer. 12 hours becomes 13, then 14. For example, finish dinner at 6 p.m. and have breakfast at 8 a.m. That's a 14-hour fast, and it's one of the gentlest ways to ease into the process. Once 14 hours feels normal, the next step is 16-8. One of the most popular fasting schedules, that means fasting for 16 hours and eating within an 8-hour window. If you finish dinner at 6 p.m., and wait until 10 a.m. for your first meal, you've hit 16 hours. It's flexible. You could shift the window earlier or later depending on your lifestyle. Night owls, early risers, parents juggling kids, all can make it work by adjusting the eating hours. There are also other styles like alternate day fasting, where you fast for about 24 hours every other day. For example, you might eat dinner Monday evening, skip meals on Tuesday, and then eat again Wednesday morning. Some people find this rhythm easier than daily fasting, while others prefer shorter daily windows. Extended fasts, 24, 36, or even 48 hours are possible too, but those are best left for when you've built confidence and experience. The important thing to remember is that fasting is not one size fits all. It's a tool you can shape around your own schedule, not the other way around. Now, what counts as a true fast? This is where things get a bit more practical. During a fast, the goal is to avoid raising insulin so your body stays in fat burning mode. Pure water, black coffee, and plain tea are all perfectly fine. They don't break your fast. Some people use a small amount of salt in water to stay hydrated and keep electrolytes balanced. Others experiment with modified fasts where they might sip bone broth or add a splash of cream to coffee. Technically, those break the fast, but they can still make the process easier for beginners. Think of it as training wheels, helpful at first, but something you may set aside once you're comfortable riding on your own. Let's use a real life example. Imagine someone who usually eats dinner at 7 p.m., has dessert at 9 p.m., and then grabs breakfast at 7 a.m. That's only a 10-hour fasting window. Simply cutting out the evening snack extends that fast to 12 hours instantly. After a week or two, they decide to delay breakfast until 9 a.m. Now it's a 14-hour fast. Over time, pushing to 10 a.m. makes it a 15-hour fast and eventually 16. Without ever going hungry, without knuckling through cravings, they've shifted into a natural fasting rhythm. The beauty of fasting is that it doesn't demand perfection. If you plan to fast until noon but end up eating at 11 a.m., that's still progress. If you make it 16 hours one day, but only 12 the next, you're still teaching your body flexibility. This isn't a rigid diet, it's a pattern you grow into, and it adjusts with your life, your work, your family, and even your social schedule. The most important step is simply starting. You don't need to go from 0 to 24 hours on your first try. You just need to create space between meals. That's how you open the door to fat burning. With each small win, your body adapts, hunger becomes more manageable, and fasting starts to feel less like an effort and more like freedom. Anyone can do this. The only question is how far you want to take it. One of the first things people notice when they start fasting is the structure it brings to their day. Instead of constantly wondering when and what to eat next, you already know your eating window. That simple boundary frees you from the endless cycle of snacking and decision making. Compare that to the modern routine, grabbing a muffin in the car, sipping a latte mid-morning, nibbling chips at your desk, picking up takeout on the way home. It's chaotic. Fasting restores order. 3 regular meals within a set window, or maybe just 2, suddenly your day feels less cluttered and more intentional. That structure naturally builds consistency. Human beings thrive on rhythm, whether it's sleep, work, or eating. When you follow the same fasting pattern each day, your body begins to expect it. Hunger signals align with your schedule, not the other way around. At first, waiting until 10 a.m. to eat might feel strange, but after a week or two, your body adjusts. By 10 a.m., you're ready, but you're no longer hungry at 7 a.m. The routine becomes self-reinforcing, and soon fasting isn't something you try. It's just the way you live. This consistency also makes eating simpler. Instead of obsessing over calories, points, or macros, you're working with time, not numbers. You don't need to weigh your chicken breast or count the almonds in your hand. By reducing the hours you eat, you automatically reduce the opportunities to overeat. It's effortless portion control without the mental gymnastics. People often say they feel less preoccupied with food once they establish a fasting rhythm, which is the exact opposite of how traditional diets make you feel. Beyond simplicity, fasting has powerful effects on metabolic health. One of the most important is improving insulin sensitivity. Every time you eat, especially carbohydrates, insulin rises to help store that energy. But when insulin stays high all the time, thanks to constant eating, your cells stop responding well, and this leads to insulin resistance. That's the root problem behind type 2 diabetes and many cases of obesity. Fasting lowers insulin levels and gives your body a break from the constant onslaught. Over time, this helps your cells become more sensitive again, which means better blood sugar control and less risk of metabolic disease. Think of it this way, your body is like a busy office. If emails, sassy food signals keep arriving every 5 minutes, the inbox overflows and eventually the staff stops checking it carefully. That's insulin resistance. But if you cut the emails down to a few meaningful ones each day, the staff can actually process them properly. Fasting reduces the noise, letting your system work the way it was designed. There's also the bigger picture. Fasting connects us to a more traditional way of living. Throughout human history, people didn't graze all day. Food wasn't always available, and so natural fasting periods were part of life. Our grandparents, even just 50 years ago, often ate 3 meals and nothing more. Compare that with today's culture of constant availability, snacks in every drawer, vending machines at every corner, 24-hour drive-thrus. We've normalized eating all day long, but our biology hasn't changed. Fasting reintroduces the natural balance our bodies evolved with. And this is why fasting is not just about short-term weight loss. Yes, burning body fat is one of the first benefits, but the real value is long-term health. By lowering insulin, improving blood sugar, and giving your body regular breaks from processing food, you're protecting yourself against type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and even certain cancers. It's not about fitting into smaller jeans for the summer. It's about building a foundation for decades of better health. When you combine structure, habit, simplicity, metabolic improvements, and tradition, fasting becomes more than a tool. It becomes a lifestyle. At first, you might think of it as something you do to lose weight. But soon, it simply becomes the way you eat, predictable, natural, and sustainable. You're not fighting against your body, you're working with it. And that shift is what makes fasting so powerful, not just for shedding pounds, but for living well. One of the biggest worries people have about fasting is hunger. Won't I be starving? They ask. But hunger isn't as powerful as it seems. It comes in waves. If you've ever skipped lunch because you were too busy at work, you know this already. At noon you felt hungry, but by 1:30 you were deep in your project and suddenly realized you weren't hungry anymore. That's the hunger wave. It rises, peaks, and then fades. You don't need to panic when it comes. You just need to ride it out. The trick is knowing how to handle those waves. Staying busy is one of the best strategies. If you're sitting around watching the clock, hunger feels unbearable. But if you go for a walk, tackle a project at home, or dive into work, the wave passes before you even notice. Some people find exercise especially helpful. It burns off nervous energy and shifts focus away from food. Others use hobbies, reading, playing music, writing, even organizing a messy closet. The key is to fill the time so your brain isn't fixating on food. There are also traps to avoid. Food is everywhere in our environment, and even seeing it can trigger cravings. Scrolling through social media and stumbling across recipe videos, watching cooking shows, wandering through a grocery store when you don't need to. Those are guaranteed to make fasting harder. Even something as simple as hanging out at a party where snacks are within arm's reach can push you off track. When you're fasting, it's not willpower alone that carries you. It's shaping your environment to reduce temptation. That doesn't mean avoiding life altogether. Fasting is flexible. If you know you're going to a birthday dinner Friday night, don't fight it, work around it. Maybe you fast a little longer earlier in the day or the next morning to balance it out. If you've got a demanding work schedule or a family dinner tradition, adjust your fasting window so it fits your reality. There's no one right way. Some people prefer skipping breakfast. Others prefer skipping dinner. Both are fine. What matters is finding a rhythm that you can stick to without feeling like you're sacrificing your life. Another tip is to use beverages wisely. Plain water is always best, but black coffee and tea can be great allies. They suppress appetite and give you something warm and comforting to sip during fasting hours. Adding a pinch of salt to water can also help if you feel lightheaded or sluggish, since electrolytes sometimes dip when you're not eating. These small tricks make the experience smoother and more sustainable. It's also important to remind yourself why you're fasting. Hunger often feels urgent in the moment, but it loses its power when you step back and see the bigger picture. You're not depriving yourself, you're giving your body a break. You're teaching it to burn fat, lower insulin, and reset. That mental shift turns hunger from an emergency into a passing signal that you can handle. Think of it like training any other skill. The first time you fast, hunger might feel overwhelming, but each time you practice, it gets easier. Your body adapts, your energy steadies, and the waves feel less intense. Soon you realize you're not struggling against hunger anymore. You're riding it effortlessly, like a surfer catching the tide. Over time, fasting becomes less about willpower and more about habit. The more you practice, the more natural it feels. Just as brushing your teeth or tying your shoes doesn't take effort anymore, fasting becomes a part of your rhythm. The early challenges fade, and what remains is freedom. The freedom to eat when you choose, rather than when food happens to be in front of you. When people first begin fasting, they often encounter little bumps along the road. These aren't signs that something is going wrong. They're simply part of the body adjusting to a new rhythm. Think of it like switching from driving in the city to driving on the highway. At first it feels different, maybe even uncomfortable, but once you settle in, it becomes smooth and natural. One of the most common complaints is headaches. This usually isn't hunger itself, it's dehydration. When insulin levels drop during fasting, your body releases water and salt. That's why you might find yourself running to the bathroom more often. The fix is simple: drink more fluids and add a pinch of salt to your water. Herbal tea or sparkling water can also help. Just that small adjustment can turn a frustrating headache into nothing more than a passing memory. Some people also notice dizziness or lightheadedness, especially if they stand up quickly. Again, this is usually due to a dip in electrolytes. A pinch of salt, mineral water, or even broth during longer fasts is often enough to steady things out. Think of electrolytes as the spark plugs that keep your body's engine running smoothly. Without them, things sputter a bit, but with a small adjustment, the engine purrs again. Digestive changes are also common in the early stages. Some notice constipation since they're eating fewer meals and taking in less bulk overall. The solution is to drink more water, move your body, and if needed, add fiber from vegetables or a gentle supplement like psyllium husk. Others may experience the opposite: looser stools. That usually settles on its own as the body adjusts, but staying hydrated and easing into fasting gradually helps smooth the transition. Sleep can also be affected at first. Some people find they're more alert and have trouble drifting off, almost like their body has too much energy. This is actually a good sign. Your body is tapping into fat stores and fueling you steadily. But if it becomes bothersome, winding down with calming routines before bed can help: reading, stretching, or even a warm bath. Over time, sleep usually improves, as fasting often stabilizes blood sugar and reduces nighttime awakenings. And here's the surprising part: while you may feel a few rough edges at the beginning, energy usually improves with fasting. Many people describe a sense of mental clarity and focus, as if the fog lifts. Instead of constant highs and crashes from snacking, you're running on steady fuel from your body fat. It's like switching from a flickering candle to a steady lamp. The adjustment phase is temporary, but the energy benefits are lasting. The key thing to remember is that fasting is always voluntary. You are in control. If at any point you don't feel well, you can simply stop and eat. Nothing is lost. Fasting is not starvation. You always have the choice to start again when you're ready. That flexibility is what makes it sustainable. Unlike rigid diets that punish you for cheating, fasting allows for grace. You can adapt it to your life, your schedule, and your comfort level. Challenges are simply the body's way of learning something new. Just as sore muscles appear when you start a new exercise routine, these small symptoms show that your metabolism is adjusting. With time, they fade, and what remains is the lasting benefit: weight loss, improved health, and freedom from constant eating. If you can hold steady through the temporary hurdles, you'll discover that fasting doesn't drain you, it energizes you. And the small challenges you face now are nothing compared to the lasting results ahead. One of the most common mistakes people make with fasting has nothing to do with willpower. It's the environment around them. Our world is designed to make us eat. Food commercials flash across screens. The smell of fresh bread drifts out of bakeries. Coworkers leave donuts in the break room, and social gatherings revolve around snacks. Even if you're not physically hungry, these triggers spark cravings. It's like walking past a campfire. You can't help but feel the warmth. The best defense is awareness. If you know you're fasting, avoid wandering through the grocery store when you don't need to, skip scrolling food, heavy social media, and keep tempting snacks out of your home. Instead, fill your environment with non-food cues: books, water, music, walks outside. Shaping your surroundings makes fasting far easier than trying to fight temptation head on. Another mistake is trying to do it alone. Fasting can feel isolating if everyone around you is constantly eating. You might hear comments like, "Breakfast is the most important meal of the day," or "You'll ruin your metabolism." Social pressure can be tough, especially in cultures where food equals connection. That's why having support is so valuable. Whether it's a friend, a community group, or even an online forum, knowing that others are walking the same path makes the journey easier. You don't need a crowd cheering you on. Just one person who understands can make all the difference. And if you don't have support right away, Remind yourself that every great change begins with one person willing to be different. Eventually, your results will speak louder than any doubts. The third mistake is overeating after breaking a fast. This happens because people treat fasting like a test of endurance. They hold out as long as possible, then swing the pendulum back with a huge meal. But fasting isn't about punishing yourself, it's about balance. When you break a fast, aim for a normal, nourishing meal. Think protein, vegetables, healthy fats, not a pizza and 2 tubs of ice cream. A good mindset shift is to see fasting as opening the freezer to use your stored food energy. When it's time to eat again, you don't need to make up for lost meals. You're simply refueling in a way that supports your goals. The calmer and more intentional your refeed, the better you'll feel and the more sustainable fasting becomes. The truth is, mistakes will happen. Maybe you gave in to a food ad, ate because of social pressure, or overdid it at dinner. That doesn't mean you failed. It just means you're human. Fasting is not about perfection, it's about practice. Each slip is a chance to learn what triggered you so you can adjust for next time. Did hunger hit because you didn't hydrate enough? Did social pressure catch you off guard? Did you skip planning a proper meal? Every misstep contains a lesson. And the more you learn, the stronger you become. This is why fasting works long term. It's simple, powerful, and natural. You're not counting calories or buying expensive products. You're simply working with the body's design: eat, rest, burn, repeat. The key is consistency. Build the habit step by step. Learn from mistakes without judgment and lean on support when you need it. With time, fasting shifts from being something you try to something you live. So remember this: fasting is not a punishment and it's not deprivation. It's freedom. It's the freedom to stop worrying about constant eating, the freedom to burn fat naturally, and the freedom to take control of your health on your own terms. Stay consistent, stay compassionate with yourself, and let fasting work the way it was always meant to. The results will come and they'll last.